Welcome everyone to the Turner Memorial AME Church Henry McNeil Turner Scholarship College Workshop for today. We are so happy for everyone who was able to attend, our participants and our guest panelists today. We're so happy and pleased that she was able to join us. So I guess we're ready to get started.
All right, Brother Joey.
Sure thing. Let us pray. Dear Lord Heavenly Father, once again, we thank you for another day, Lord Heavenly Father Jesus, another day above ground, Lord Heavenly Father, just for you to continue to give us your blessings and your mercies, Lord. Lord Heavenly Father, for today's event that we have going on, we pray that this information reaches individuals, Lord Heavenly Father, so that they understand the need for college readiness, Lord Heavenly Father Jesus. Even if it's a small number and few, Lord Heavenly Father, we know that this information will be vital to them, Lord Heavenly Father. This will give them the increase that they need, Lord Heavenly Father. This will give them the courage and the strength that they need going forward, Lord Heavenly Father Jesus. Bless everyone as we continue to finish out the rest of this year, Lord Heavenly Father. And we hope and pray that 2022 will be even better, Lord Jesus. In your name's sake we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. So just wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. The purpose of this event today is, of course, to prepare our young folks who have a desire to attend college, give them the tools that will help them to have a successful transition from high school to college, as well as having a successful experience in terms of financial aid, admissions, so on and so forth. So we came up with this idea to see what we as a ministry could do to actually help our young folks. And so out of that birth, the College Readiness Workshop. We are thankful that we have our guest speaker today, Ms. Regina Robinson, who is an award-winning speaker, entrepreneur, Amazon book bestseller, and educational coach, who is widely known for engaging, motivating, and inspiring high school and college students as she combines genuine inspiration, laughter, and practical principles that will impact change. And so Ms. Robinson has been a teacher, a consultant, and coaching in the educational field. She continues to provide education strategies and accountability for high school families who are excited about their children attending college, pursuing higher education. I actually participated in several of her workshops when DeAnthony and Dayana were actually getting ready to attend college. So in their junior and senior years. Ms. Robinson provides a wealth of knowledge. She gives step-by-step guidance in identifying resources to choose the college that is right socially, academically, and financially for our students. And so with that being said, our presenter, Ms. Robinson.
Hello. Thank you so much, Mr. Jameson, for such a warm welcome. And thank you so much to all of the church family and all of the students and parents who are live here with us today or who are watching the recording today. We are grateful here to bring to you that knowledge and resources and tools that you need in successfully navigating the college admissions process. Now more than ever, it's not always easy, but it is always beneficial and it is always a return on your investment. And so again, thank you so much for having me. I hail here from Bowie State University as an undergraduate degree participant, as well as my master's degree from Georgetown University. And so all the Hoyas, shout out to the Hoyas. And so thank you so much again for having me. And again, Student for Success has been helping students and families for over 15 years successfully win the game of college admissions. We have helped students get over $25 million in scholarships and grants, and we continue to raise that number every year with every cohort of students that we receive each year. So this year we plan to have that number go hire. We have 17 seniors. We are helping from the class of 2022 navigate through the college process. And we have helped thousands of students via workshops, via school visits and all of those things. But with COVID, everything is virtual, but you get the same experience virtually as you get when you're in person, right? As long as you're willing to take notes and glean in so that you can hear what's for you and what you need. So today we'll cover financial aid, but we'll also cover college admissions. So we'll combine them and I'll twirl them all into one. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the PowerPoint. So it says it's FAFSA time, should I apply? So yes, it's geared more towards FAFSA because sometimes you got to make that adjustment, but we also want to make sure we focus on other areas also in the college admissions process. So I think this thing is set up on some kind of timer. Okay, there we go. So let's jump right in. We won't hold you, but we want to make sure you get everything you need in the time that we are here. You can post questions in the chat box and I'm going to answer all your questions. So don't hesitate if I'm talking about something, drop it in the chat, ping it in your notes, screenshot it or whatever you need so that you can come back to that question when we go to the Q&A at the end, okay? So here we are, housekeeping rules again. That was your housekeeping to write your questions down. Remember, no question is a dumb question. Ask your questions so you can get your answers. So topics of discussion today will be financial aid, scholarships, loans, and common questions, and how the college admissions process fits into all of those categories, and how those categories all make sure that you combined into the puzzle of getting into college and what you need. The FAFSA is actually a free application for federal aid. So once you complete that application, it's a database. It collects your information. It takes that information and it puts it into a database that goes out to your colleges you're interested in. The colleges you're interested in pulls your database information from the FAFSA. They look at it, they see what income guidelines you fall in, and they determine what scholarships, grants, and loans you receive and what type of loans you receive. Now, I know you're saying, well, what's the formula for how they figure that out? We'll never know that. But there is a paper that they have as their guidelines as financial aid assistants and directors that are looking at that formula, looking at what you put in the FAFSA, and that's how they are determining what you will receive. And so please make sure you complete a FAFSA, because most people will say, well, I make too much money, so I'm not going to complete my FAFSA. You should complete a FAFSA whether you make a lot of money, a little bit of money, or in between money. Because what happens is if you do not complete the FAFSA, and there's money that the school has that's connected to an endowment that requires you to have a FAFSA on file, and you don't have one, they're not going to call you and tell you you need to now complete one so you can get that money because you qualified. They're going to pass that money on to someone else. So please make sure you are completing your FAFSA. There are 3 types of financial aid once you complete your FAFSA that is dispersed. It's grants, which is free money awarded on the basis of need. So remember I said there's that income guideline that they have on that sheet that determines whether you can get grants through the financial aid through the government. There's work study, which is also on that income-based need. So it's a part-time employment to students at their college to help meet the costs. Now there's 2 folds to that, because if you don't turn the money back in when they pay you, then that's going to be a deficit at the end of the semester that you still owe the school. So it's important that students educate themselves from the schools that they're applying to so that they can find out, does my school give me the money or does my school automatically put it on my account? If they give you the money, you have to then return the money into your student accounts office so they can accredit it to your account. Otherwise, at the end of the semester, they will send your parents a bill saying you owe that money. Last but not least is loans, and that's money you borrow and you must pay the money back. I tell parents all the time, please only borrow what you need, not a penny more, because you have to pay that money back and it accrues interest the entire time. So don't borrow more than you need. The FAFSA application opens October 1st every year. So you cannot complete the FAFSA if you're on live or you're watching this recording and you're in the 10th grade this year. The FAFSA does not apply to you yet. It applies to you on October 1st of your senior year, not a minute before that. And so please don't go saying, I went ahead and I got a jump start in completing my FAFSA. No, you didn't. You completed the wrong FAFSA for the wrong year that does not apply to you. So please, please, please make sure you understand it's your senior year, October 1st, and every year thereafter, until you leave your college campus, you must complete a FAFSA. If you miss a year, whatever money you have been getting, you will not receive. So please complete your FAFSA every year for 4 years while you're at college, plus the year you're a senior in high school. The items that you'll need whenever you're completing the FAFSA is, of course, you have to create a FAFSA ID, which is a username and password. That's days before the FAFSA opens, weeks or months before the FAFSA open. You can decide when you go in and create it, but you want to make sure you create it ahead of time because you need it in order to sign your FAFSA when you've done. You need your W-2 forms from your tax return. You'll need your tax return 1040, first 2 to 3 pages. You'll need, and if you have any Social Security or VA benefits, you need your statements from that, bank statement, as well as the opportunity to get into the IRS database. Now, here's the key thing about the IRS database. Once you get into the database, it allows you to connect directly to the IRS and it pulls your tax returns. Now, if you go in and manually put in your information, a school will often flag you and ask for proof of information. So please try to use the IRS database and not go in on your own and put in your own numbers. Why the IRS database? Because it is 100% foolproof. You can't alter it, you can't edit it, and people know that, and the schools know that, and that's why it's a trusted site. So make sure you actually go through the database. So these are items you need when you're actually sitting down to complete your FAFSA. Once you complete your FAFSA, you'll receive what they call the SAR report. It's a student aid report. It's just basically giving you overview of everything you submitted into your FAFSA becomes an overview into your actual FAFSA. So everything that was submitted there, you're going to now see that in your FAFSA on your student aid report. And so student aid reports can use for 2 things. Some scholarships require it, and then some schools might actually for a copy of your student aid report. So what you do is you just download it, save it as a PDF, and you can upload it and send it to whoever is requiring you to submit that, okay? So again, the student aid report is just something you need if it's required by a scholarship. Keep in mind that every state has a deadline. You need to find out what state you're in and what's their deadline, what state you're going to, and looking at schools and what's their deadline, because both states matter. Sorry. So for instance, March 1st is our deadline in the state of Maryland. So everyone must submit by March 1st, okay? So March 1st is our state deadline. Please, please, please make sure you are in under our state deadline, March 1st, okay? What happens if you do not get in by March 1st? Remember where I said you get the opportunity to get grants, work studies, and loans? You will not get grants. If you miss March 1st, you forfeit any grant money that you were eligible for. So you will not receive that money if you miss March 1st deadline. It's open October. Parents, please don't procrastinate, and please don't let your children procrastinate. Please remember that the FAFSA application is your student's application. You are just a signer. It is not your application. You are just a signer, and it is asking for your financial information for you to put in for your student. Now, once you have completed your FAFSA, once you have applied to your school, once you have gotten accepted into your college, then they will, from the financial aid office, send you a financial aid award letter. Now, what does that mean? That means everything, because that's them telling you how much money you're going to get, whether it's free money, whether it is money you pay back, and whether it is money that you can still have access to. So the financial aid award letter is important. And I always tell parents, review the award letters from every college before you make a final decision, because you want to see who's giving you the most. And sometimes you might get one award letter, get excited, and your kids get excited and they want to jump the gun and say, oh, I'm going to choose that college. Well, you haven't looked at the other award letters. And the last thing you want to do is go into college debt unnecessarily when there was a possible school that offered you just as much money. And as a coach, I tell students all the time, every school on your list, you should love equally, or it shouldn't be on your list. And so no matter which one says yes, which one gives the money is where you should be. And that's key and that's important, because that means now you can go for undergrad possibly free, and then save that money and go back and go to grad school wherever you want to go to grad school. And so sometimes you got to be willing to make those decisions as students. Might not always be the decision you want, but what's the best decision for you and your family? So here's what an award letter looks like. An estimated cost of a school is $55,000 for the year. Their tuition and fees is total of $39,000. Housing and meals, $13,000. Books and supplies, $1,000. Personal and miscellaneous, $2,000. So the last two items, books and personal, those are estimated, and those don't always stay as a hard number on your award letter when they're configuring all the numbers, because your books could be less. Personal and miscellaneous could be less. So that's just them trying to give you an idea of what people have spent in the past. And so they are telling the student now what they received according to their FAFSA and according to their academics and according to their test scores. Here's what we can offer you as a college. And so President's Scholarship in the fall, and so they always break it up by semester. So keep in mind, you're looking at semester. They're going to give this student a President's Scholarship for $20,000, $10,000 in the fall, $10,000 in the spring. I have to say that's a good scholarship. They're going to give them a federal Pell Grant of $1,200, $600 in the fall, $600 in the spring. A federal supplemental educational opportunity grant, because they met that March 1st deadline, right? $1,000, $500 in the fall, $500 in the spring. A state scholarship, that means they got that FAFSA completed by March 1st. And so they got $900, $450 in the fall, $450 in the spring. Now, notice the shading and the colors change. So at the very beginning, it's clear, there's no color behind the background of those. That's because that student will receive those 3 line items for 4 straight years, as long as they maintain academic requirements, as long as they complete the FAFSA on time, ahead of time before the deadline date, and as long as they turn in any required additional paperwork, they will get that money. The state scholarship is not guaranteed for them to get every year, or it could fluctuate or it could go down. Now, the next section are areas where you borrow money. That's why the color has changed. So federal work study is not borrowed money. However, it is borrowed if you don't pay it to the school. So understand how that works. So remember, they're giving it to you, but you should give it back to them if you wanted to pay for your tuition. So if you don't give it back to them, then that means you have that money somewhere else to put in the pot. So technically, it's a borrowed money. And so they've given them $3,000, $1,500 each semester. Federal Perkins loan, $2,500, $1,250 each semester. Federal Stafford loan subsidized, $3,500, $1,750 each semester. That line item changes yearly. So every year that you go up in your academics as a college student, the money goes up. So meaning they give you additional funding. And so additional amounts that you can borrow from the loans. And then Federal Stafford loan unsubsidized, $2,000, $1,000 each semester. So in a total of money that you have, free money plus borrowed money, is $34,100. So how do you really look at this in retrospect to an award letter? So when you look at $34,000, when you look at $55,000, there's still about a $20-something thousand balance, right? And so how do you come up with that money? And so the school gives you 2 options. You can then take a Parent Plus loan, which is 100% the responsibility of the parent. And then if you don't want to take a parent loan, you can actually then divide the payments by 10. If you divide the payments by 10, let's say it was $29,000 balance, you now have to pay $2,900 a month. Now, parents, remember, that's an addition. to your already bills you have every month. So you need to decide, can you afford $2,900 every month? Or do you want to take the loan out? Now, even if you take the loan out, you still have to pay monthly payments on the loan as well. So can you afford whatever the bank, because the monthly payments are determined by the borrower. So you have to find out from the borrower what the payments are going to be and how much they're going to be monthly. And how long will it take you to actually pay it back? So that's things that you have to work on. That's things you have to be educated about. And that's things that you have to be, that you put in front of you to make the best decision. That's why I said it's so important to get every award letter first before you make any final decisions. Now, a scholarship. We're going to switch categories now and go to scholarship. A scholarship is an award that you receive from a school. You just saw on there was a state scholarship on that award letter, but scholarships are also from private institutions. Scholarships are from stores that you shop in all the time. Scholarships are also from fraternities and sororities. There are a lot of scholarships out there, and scholarships is free money. I'll say that again, free money. So you should be doing as many scholarships as possible. Why? Because you don't know if you'll win them, but you know you won't if you never apply to any. And so as many scholarships as possible. We will get so many calls from parents about scholarships and stuff. So we wind up creating at Suited for Success, a scholarship database membership. So every month students get a list of over about 65 scholarships a month, anywhere up to about 150. However many we find out about that month, the students get a list of that to their email. So they don't have to do the work. We do the work for them. But there is skin in the game from their side, because they have to click the link, they have to see if they qualify, and they have to apply. And so it's really 3 steps for them. Click the link. If you qualify, that's number 2. Yes, if you qualify, number 3, complete the application. Now, the reward will be if you win, but the non-reward will be if you never clicked, if you never qualified, and if you never applied. You don't get the money. And so we're creating the list for families so that they don't have to go out there looking for it and research. And now it's a varied list. It's not geared towards anyone, but any database you go to is a varied list. It's not geared towards you. And so the key is in this, regardless of where you get scholarships from, do scholarships, right? My daughter is a sophomore in college. When she was a high school student, we would be doing scholarships, and parents, here's a nugget. I was doing them with her. So she'd be on one laptop, I'll be on my laptop, and we would be doing scholarships. We had a scholarship night. And so we had phones, we were on our phones, we were on our laptops. She's on her phone, her laptop, and we're getting 4 applications done simultaneously. And we had paper ones, because if you can only do a paper one, we had paper ones lined up on the floor in the living room. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, if we don't get scholarships, the money comes from us, yes, or the money becomes debt from the students, yes, or debt from the parent. So are you willing to do the work to make sure that they can get the money? Because the biggest debt right now in the world is student loan debt. That's crazy. So the biggest debt is for us to fund our education, which is what we need in order to be successful in life and get these different jobs. But it holds the biggest debt in the world. And so why do you want to be a part of that debt when you cannot be a part of that debt? And so I don't know about you, I don't want to be in debt forever. And I didn't want my daughter to be in debt forever. And so she literally goes to a private liberal arts college in Maryland. She goes to McDaniel College, a $60,000 a year college, and we pay $0 every year. And she's on her 2nd year. Parents, the money is out there. It can be done, but you have to position yourself and your children from day one. I told her in middle school, when you enter that high school door, you need to be academically inclined, because I will not be paying for college. And so you have to maintain this GPA every quarter. And if you fall below, you need to figure it out by the next quarter, so that by the end of the year, it balances out. Why? Because I knew where the scholarship money would lie. So parents, keep your kids in that 3.5 category, because being below average is not an option. We have to stop allowing our kids to think it's okay to get D's and E's and C's. It's not okay. Now, see, sometimes, granted, some subjects are just not their subjects, but that's where we come in and we get them tutoring, right? That's where we got to stop buying expensive cell phones and tennis shoes and clothes all the time and buy a tutor. because they're available to help our children be successful. And so we have to make sure they have the academics, they have the GPA so that they can get into these colleges and get that money. So you saw that presidential scholarship said 20,000, 10 every year. That means that student did the work. They started out freshman year of high school, making sure it counts. And so your student has to do the same thing. And are they capable? Absolutely. If you're a sophomore and freshman year wasn't 3.5 every semester, guess what? You're in a new year now. Switch gears right today. If you're a freshman, switch gears today. You're in the second semester or second quarter of your high school career. No matter what grade you're in, you can change the dynamics of how you are positioning yourself as a student. We don't have to stay in a average or below average. We can now switch gears and get into above average because it's doable. The types of scholarships are merit, and that comes from the college. So you saw where they offered the student an academic scholarship of $20,000, 10 in the fall, 10 in the spring. That was a merit scholarship. Why is merit so important? When students go through our program, our biggest goal is to make sure that student qualifies for merit from every school they apply to. Why? Because that's already money off the top from every school that their parents don't have to worry about. And that average is anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 a year. So that whatever the tuition is, that's already balanced out, right? Depending on what your kid qualified from their academics. Then they go on to other scholarships, grants, and things like that. So then when you get that over top of your merit money, now you're starting to see some things dwindle down from that balance. And that's the key. That's how you look at it. And I tell parents all the time, students are not looking at the cost of school. They're just looking at the school. And so it's our responsibility to be paying attention to the cost of school and making sure what it is and is it affordable for us at that time. There's also private scholarships, like I talked about. Private scholarships are smaller amounts, but they still equal up. I tell students all the time, well, sometimes they'll say, well, that scholarship was only $500. I said, do you have $500? They said, well, no, or then you need to apply for that scholarship. I don't care if it's $300. $300 adds up. That's less money for you and your parents to borrow in the end or to try and come up with. Financial need base, which you saw that on there. Senatorial scholarships. So the senators in your area find out about their scholarships. The delegates in your area find out about their scholarships. Bank scholarships, the banks that you actually bank at, that are holding all of your money. They offer some scholarships, legislative scholarships, stores, sororities and fraternities, and churches. And so where you go to church at, 9 times out of 10, they have a scholarship that's for 1 year. One of the things you have to pay attention to in scholarships also is that some scholarships are not renewable. That means they're for that year only and you won't get them again. And so you have to make sure you equate for that when you are financially looking at the affordability of whatever school you are going to, because those scholarships will drop off. Now, can your kid go out there and find some other scholarships? Yes, to replace those, right? I'm reminding my daughter now, you better go and find you some scholarships for junior year. So I'm saying that to her every day now. You gotta get out there and apply to some scholarships for junior year because I'll let you slide sophomore year. But you never know how the financials will change from the school and what they're giving, and tuition is continuously going up. So every year you should continue to apply for scholarships when you are in college. And so now I know you're saying, well, when can I start getting scholarships as a high school student? Well, there are scholarships out there for students in elementary and middle school. So you can start now. Keep in mind, let's say you're a sophomore and there's a scholarship that's offered for high school students, and you can get it as early as a 9th grader or a 10th grader. How many 10th graders you think are applying? Probably very few. So if you're one of them, and now it gives you a bigger chance, a greater chance to win that scholarship because you're willing to apply and they didn't. So put your odds out there in the bag early. So when you start seeing scholarships early, apply for scholarships early. They hold the money until you're actually a college student. So make sure you put the money out there. Make sure you get everything in position so that you can get as many scholarships as possible. And remember, I said apply to as many scholarships as possible. And here's how I tell parents to hold their students accountable. Here's how we hold our students accountable in our program. We're on a group text thread. The student, the parent, and myself. Every month, they must apply to at least 10 scholarships. They must text us 10 screenshots of 10 different scholarships saying, that they have completed the application. Parents, sometimes we have to have a form of accountability for our children. And so that's accountability. That's holding them accountable. 10 scholarships, right? And the ones who don't do it, I remind the parents, oh, we went through another month. Did you get a group text thread? Because I didn't get a group text thread. Do you have money? Because I don't have the money for you and your children. So do you have the money for you and your kid to get into college? And so then they can go back to their children and say, well, I didn't see any scholarships. You better do scholarships because we need that money to help offset college. And so that's where we come in as families and parents and be accountable to our students. Knowing the requirements. So remember, I talked about merit aid and that being the biggest bulk of the money when it comes to financing your college education. Here's what a school will glance at when they are looking at a student for merit money. They're going to look at their not this particular diagram. This is a diagram I use to make sure my students qualify for merit money. It's a database that I'm a part of and my students get access to. So what it is it looks at your GPA. So remember, merit is based off your GPA and your test scores. So I know some students are saying, well, most schools aren't taking test scores anymore. That's why they're heavily looking at your GPA, heavily looking at your college essay, heavily looking at the classes you've taken in college, in high school, and the extracurricular activities that you are involved in. So it's no longer just your test scores and GPA because they're not even using test scores. So they're moving into other categories to make sure you actually qualify for the merit money. So for instance, this school's average student comes in this average 50 percentile, 3.5. This student is up against that school with a 3.5. So they are right in the midst of the 3.5 GPA. And so now that means they qualify for merit money. So let's say the student is debating on whether they should do test optional for that particular college, or should they apply regular with test scores? So when we go down at the bottom is where their test scores are. So the SAT and the ACT. So let's look at the ACT first. The ACT average is a 21 to 25. This student has a 20. So we automatically know we don't send the ACT scores to this school because they're not in the bracket for that scores bracket.
Yes.
If we go back up to the SAT, the 580 in reading, they're beyond the chart for them. The 500 to 590, they're almost at the top for the math. And most schools aren't looking at writing anymore. And so this student would be a great SAT positioner for this particular school. So they can decide, do I want to do test optional or do I want to provide my SAT scores? They could do both, either or. They can definitely provide their test scores and still be a highly competitive participant for that school. And so they would provide their scores to the school plus their GPA, and they would receive merit money from that college. Why? Because they have the test scores and they fall within the 50 percentile for that school. If they did not provide test scores, they fall within the 50 percentile of that school. So they still would actually get in and get merit money. So that's the caveat of looking at how you align to a college, not just, oh, I want to go to that college. How do you rank against that college? Because that's important. Colleges are looking for students who are well-rounded, who can handle the academic rigor of their institution. And this is how they determine whether a student will be able to do that. Here are some scholarship resources. And remember, I say apply to as many as possible. So if you would like, please take a screenshot of this slide. This is the slide that gives you databases for you to actually get scholarships from. So you go to these databases, you look at them, you apply. So if you're not in our scholarship membership portal, you want to be on one of these website databases and you want to be applying for scholarships. So this is that resource, okay? A student loan. So remember I said we'll talk about financial aid, scholarships, and loans. And so a student loan is a type of debt that students must pay back. And it's to educate and get your post-secondary education done. But here's what I know. They offer loans to students. They offer loans to parents. Everyone must pay the loans back, whether it's the student or whether it's the parent. And there are different types of loans, and we're going to break that down. So the types of loans, remember, it was federal Stafford loan, then it was subsidized Stafford loan, and then there's one more, unsubsidized. So we'll talk about all three. Federal loans are student loans that must be repaid. They are all loans that must be repaid, okay? None of them are free to you. They must all be paid back. First year undergraduates are eligible for loans, but up to $5,500. So you can't get over and you can't get under. They give it to you as a freshman for $5,500 total. The amounts increase for years after that. So remember, I said after freshman year, every year the money increases. Then you have subsidized Stafford loans. Is a loan for which the government pays the interest while you're in school, during your grace periods and during any deferment. 6 months after you graduate, it is time to start paying that money back. Otherwise, they'll tack on all that interest on you if you do not pay the money back. So remember, subsidized is paid through the government for the interest the entire time you're in college, but you must pay it back 6 months after you graduate. So that's why there's a difference between unsubsidized loan. An unsubsidized loan is a loan for which you are responsible for paying all the interest it accrues. Now, while you're in college, every month is accruing interest, unlike the subsidized one. So what I always tell families, if you remember back on the chart, the unsubsidized was $2,000 for the year. I always say to families, if you have $2,000 in the bank and you're saving somewhere, become your own lender and you can pay yourself back. Because if you borrow the unsubsidized category, you have to pay all of that back with interest, or you can pay the monthly interest every month on your loan. And that way it's not accruing and adding up the entire time. So as a parent, you can pay the interest for your student, which is very helpful. That means they won't have all that interest tacked on when they're trying to pay it back in the end. Last but not least is the Parent Plus loan. The Parent Plus loan is 100% responsibility of the parent and the parent alone. So the student has no responsibility to a parent loan. And so this parent must use their credit report. So they run a credit check on you. They see your credit score. That's how they decide where you categorize at for parent loans, what your interest rate will be to pay it back, what your repayment status, all of that is done and based on a credit check. And so I always tell parents, please do not borrow more in a Parent Plus loan than you can pay, than you need. This is not a time to get your house remodeled, buy a new car, do all kinds of crazy stuff with this Parent Plus loan. Only borrow what you need to finance your child's education so that you won't be responsible for paying back in the end more than you can actually afford to pay back, because you must pay the loan back. And here's the caveat: your kid can go to school for one semester and decide they want to drop out. You still owe for that loan for that year, unfortunately. And so it is the parent loan and you're still going to owe it back. So make sure your children are committed to it, make sure they're ready for it, and make sure, again, you only borrow what you need. These are some common questions that parents and students often have as it relates. And so I want to make sure we dispel any myths around these common questions so that you are educated about it to know how to move forward with it. So it says, we make too much money to qualify for a Pell Grant. Should we still file a FAFSA? Yes. Remember, I said about the example, there could be some endowment money or some grant money or fellowship money from the school that they have that your student would qualify for, but they decided, or you decided, not to complete the FAFSA. So that student would never receive that money. And they're not going to call you and tell you to now do the FAFSA so they can give you money. They're not going to do that. So please, I don't care how much money you make, complete the FAFSA. It helps you to get scholarships, grants, and other institutional aid that you don't want to disqualify yourself because you decided not to do it. The biggest myth is most parents will say, well, I don't want them all in my business. The government knows everything about you. You're not giving them anything new that they didn't know. And so please, you would rather get some money now than pay more later. Another common question is, do I have to register with Selective Service? When you have a male student and they're inside the FAFSA and they're completing the FAFSA, it will ask if they are registered for Selective Service. Say no, and then say you want them to register you. That way it helps you because you need to do that as a male when you're doing the FAFSA anyway. So go ahead and let them handle it for you so you don't have to worry about it. So just say, it'll say, are you registered? You say no. They say, do you want us to register you? Say yes, okay. My parents are separated, divorced. Which parent's financial information should I include? The parent you live with 90% of the time. So the parent who is paying the most money to take care of you is the parent who goes down on the FAFSA. The parent you are living with, that's the parent who's paying the most, so they go down on your FAFSA form. You don't need to put both parents. If they are not in the same household and they are not married and they are divorced or separated, you put the parent that you are living with the most. You don't have to put them both. I am a high school student and a single mother living on my own. Should I seek independence so I can receive more aid, or should I include my mother's information? If you are a single parent, if you have a child, it automatically declares you independent. And so I hear other students say, well, can I just be independent anyway from my parents? No. So unless your parents are deceased, unless you live with grandparents because you're a ward of the court from your parents, then you are considered a dependent, meaning on a family member or on your parent. The only way you are independent and that is if your parents are deceased, you're automatically independent. If you're a ward of the court, meaning your parents have given you over to your grandparents via court documents or any of that, and their guardianship, you are independent. If you have a child and as a high school student, you are independent. Other than that, you are dependent and your parents must go on your FAFSA. Should we wait until our taxes are done before completing the FAFSA? Your taxes will always be done before, well, now, let me rephrase that. So for instance, the seniors who did the FAFSA on October 1st, it was for their parents' previous year taxes. So it should have been already done, but we know not everybody files their taxes on time and they do extensions and all that other stuff. Parents, if you have a high school student, please get your affairs in order. If they are rising up and getting close to being a senior, please go from being that procrastinator every year of doing your taxes to being that go-getter for doing your taxes. Remember, money is given out on a first come, first served basis. So if you are dragging to do your taxes, your student, even once you do your FAFSA, will not get as much money possibly as they could have because you dragged on getting your FAFSA done because you didn't have your tax returns done. So please don't be that parent who don't get your tax return done early. It's always the previous year that's going to go into your return, into your FAFSA, so it should already be done. What does expected family contribution mean? It is just a measure that they're saying that's based on your untaxed income, assets, and other things that they are pulling together to say, this is what we believe you could actually contribute to paying your education. Now, does that mean that they're saying if a school is $55,000 and it says that you can contribute 10, that they expect you to pay the 10,000? Because it could be possible that you get all of the 55,000, right? But it does not mean that you're going to get all of the 45,000. So if they say you can only pay 10 and the school is 55, and you just that does not mean the school is going to give you 45. That just means they're saying it's approximately that you can pay 10. It's possible you'll be paying 20 or 30. They just saying it's estimated you can pay 10. And so please don't hold this EFC to its like number like it's the Bible. It's not. And just because yours might say 0 does not mean you're going to get all the money to pay for college. That is not what that means either. Again, it's just the number that they spew out when your FAFSA is complete, saying that this is your expected or estimated, but it does not mean that's what you're going to get. So here are some parent and student tips. Parents and students, you should know the cost of the colleges you are applying to. You should also know the requirements of the school you are applying to. Does that school have an online application? Is that school a Common App school? Is that school an HBCU Common App school? Does that school require test scores? Is that school test optional? Is that school a essay required school? Does that school require 2 recommenders, 1 recommender, or 3 recommenders? You have to know these things about your college and what they are looking for. Also, apply for scholarships through your college, meaning the department. Let's say you're a psychology major, engineering major. Do they offer scholarships through that department? Do your research. Take time to compare financial aid packages before making a final decision. And then make sure you know what financial documents are required for a school. Some colleges require not just the FAFSA, but the CSS Profile. I know you're saying, oh my God, you didn't talk about that in your slides. What is the CSS Profile? That's a whole nother financial document that's similar to the FAFSA. It's only required by some schools. There's a list out there that tells you exactly whose schools are on that list, and schools tell you whether they're on that list. But that's a part of doing your due diligence and doing research when you're looking at colleges, okay? So don't just pick colleges and then you don't know what the college requires or what they're looking for. And know what the college background mission statement is. What is this college offering? Is it a religious college? Do they make you take religious courses? Is the college, how many students are they graduating in your area of expertise that you're going into? And how many of them are going off and being successful, right? How many students are in every classroom? Are the classrooms being taught by TAs, or are the classrooms being taught by professors? These are important things. Does the school offer tutoring for free and writing labs for free? All of these things are important in your resources. What's the surrounding area like around the college campus? Are there jobs and internship programs, right, that the schools are connected to that's going to give you opportunities? Do they offer study abroad programs if that's something you want to do while you're in college? Do they offer sororities and fraternities if that's what you want to do when you're at college? You have to decide as a high school student, what environment are you looking for? What experience do you want to experience as a college student? And that's how you frame out the schools that you're going to go after and the schools that you want to look at. What states do you want to be in? Like, you might not want to go to West Coast. You might not want to be where it's cold. You might not want to be where it's hot. Those are all areas. There are over 4,000 colleges in the United States. How do you determine which ones go on your list? Well, those are ways for you to decide that. Those are ways for you to put that into action. How many colleges will you actually have on your list? Remember the FAFSA, right? We've been talking about that this entire presentation. You can only put 10 colleges in the FAFSA. So please don't apply to more than 10 colleges, because how will you get an award letter? Remember, the award letter was what's important. It comes from your FAFSA, from the colleges once you've completed it. And so 5 to 7 schools on average is a great amount of colleges to apply to. Remember, you can only go to 1. So don't apply to too many, and then you have to make a choice. 5 to 7 is good. If you just have to go to the maximum, 10 should be your maximum amount of schools. Here's some more things. Let's see if I can get this thing to click. If your family dynamics change after filing your FAFSA, make the necessary changes. Be honest and keep things up to date. So let's say you complete your FAFSA in October of your child's senior year. By the time they go off to college, you lost your job. You need to reach out to the school. They have a form, I'm sure, somewhere where you go in and you fill in that form and you submit that form, letting them know that your family dynamics have changed, because there's a possibility they can now offer you more financial assistance, and you want to make sure you cash in on that more financial assistance. So financial loss, again, from both parents, recently unemployed, all of that gives you more money. Here's what's very key. Read all documents in its entirety. Do not leave anything unturned. Read from top to bottom. All the fine print, all the small prints. Read everything. Go line by line and read your information. Keep copies. And make sure you have everything you need. And then have a discussion with your student about refund checks. I don't know about you, but when I was in college and you got that refund check, you ran straight to the mall, right? So make sure you have a question, you know, have that conversation with your children, because they're going to reach out to them to give them the refund checks. And you want to make sure there's an understanding that the refund checks come home when they get them, so that they can possibly go on the bank to pay for the next semester, and then that's less money for you to have to borrow. So please make sure they're not just spending and getting their refund checks, because the school will give them to them first. They don't give them directly to your parents. So make sure they know the conversation about refund checks. Okay. Oops, I gotta get the slides to move again. Okay, there we go. So I always say, show me the money. There is over $20 million left yearly on scholarships that kids are not collecting, that kids are not cashing in on. The money is out there. We have to make sure our children are doing scholarships. We have to make sure they are monetizing so that you are not paying, but that the schools are paying and scholarships are paying for your children. The money is there. We just have to get the money. So I know you're saying this is too much, help me, this is a lot. The whole process is just a lot. Here are some key ways to navigate the process, because every family won't be attached to our program. The resources are there, and we have a free website and we offer so much information. But for the family who's saying, I can try and do this, I can get through this, I'm a little overwhelmed, but what are some steps I can navigate through this? First and foremost, you have to be organized. You have to work together as a family team. You have to start early, right? When you enter high school, I said it starts in 9th grade. You must start early. Then you have to make sure you get everything in order and done on time before time. And then when you do that, you'll be able to get your results back early, right? And so we know that every college requires an application. Every college either is test optional or not test optional, meaning you provide your scores. So students should now be taking the SAT and ACT, getting themselves prepared so they have that aligned and ready. Students should also be working on their college essays. How can you do that? Google the Common App essay questions, pick one and write your essay. Right? If you don't have someone you have as a coach, then get your English teacher to look over it and give you comments and feedback. Make sure you are applying and getting your application in way before the deadline date. Make sure you are following up with your counselors at school to do your recommendations and your transcripts. Make sure you're talking to teachers about writing your recommendation. And most importantly, make sure you are doing your part. And your part means that you are making sure everything is officially done and in order so that you can be a successful candidate at all 7, 5, or 10 of your schools. And then on October 1st, do not delay. Get your FAFSA done. And then throughout the entire time you're working from high school on, apply for as many scholarships as possible. You want to get college to pay you. You do not want to pay for college. I tell my students in the book that I wrote, Winning the Game of College Admissions, where you have to have, there's 5 categories to the college process. And we've wrapped all 5 of those categories into today's seminar. It's college research. It's how are you picking the schools from the 4,000, right? I said, what states, what major, who are they producing? Do they have study abroad? Do they have the Divine 9 if that's what you're looking for? If they're cold area, hot area, not really a bother to you, north or south, those are ways that you're doing your college research, right? If they're a religious school, or if they're not, what do they offer? If they're HBCU, historically Black college or university, or are they a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution? Do you know all of those areas? Are you prepared for all of those areas? Then there's college visits. Have you gone to see schools? Are you coming to workshops like this so that you can get virtual visits on the colleges? Because colleges that you're considering are doing workshops just like this. Churches and organizations are doing workshops just like this. How are you educating yourself? How are you preparing yourself? Are you going on college campus for visits? Some colleges even offer overnight stays on their college campus, which is a great experience. Some colleges have college summer programs, which is a great experience as well. Then you have the financing your college education, right? That's what we've just been talking about the entire time as well. FAFSA, scholarships, loans, and grants, knowing the difference between the ones that you have. Then you have testing. Are you going to be a test optional student, or are you going to take SAT and ACT? Well, we know that COVID is kind of moving, and so schools are shifting back from being test optional because they had to become test optional because kids weren't able to sit down and test. But you now see the testing sites are open around the world. So make sure you're taking the SAT, make sure you're also taking the ACT as well. Make sure you're deciding if you're going to be a test optional school. Make sure you're asking your prospective schools, are they going to stay test optional, or are they going back to being a school that is not test optional? This is all combined into preparing to win the game of college admissions, right? And then last but not least, your college essay. Now more than ever, it matters. It always mattered, but it mattered even more now because colleges don't have test scores for some schools that are test optional. So they are heavily looking at your college essay. Your college essay is not your English paper. Your college essay is where you can get creative. It is the one place where you can tell a college admissions counselor something about you they could never find out by reading your application. That's the one place you can get creative. That's the one place you can color all outside the lines. And that's the one place where you can be you. And you can share who you are, and what you plan to become in the future, all in your college essay. And the schools are looking for that. You want to make sure you capture them from the beginning all the way to the end of your story. Now, in the midst of being creative and coloring outside the line, that doesn't mean have bad grammar and sentence structure. Those things do still play a huge role, but you want to make sure you also get your story out there so that the counselor can connect with you And they can envision you becoming a student at their college or university who's not only going to be a student, but they're going to be an influencer. They're going to be someone who leaves their impact on that college campus when they are there. And so please make sure you have all components of the college process together. Please, if you're a parent watching this in a recording or you're live and you're like, my child is a senior now, we haven't even done our FAFSA, or you're going to be a parent who does the FAFSA, connect with us. We help parents every year. We helped 38 parents file their FAFSA this year. You don't want to make a mistake on your FAFSA and you never even know you made a mistake, because the college won't know you made a mistake. You don't know you made a mistake. But what you will know is you didn't get any money that you possibly could have gotten if you didn't make a mistake on your FAFSA. And so we also work with students on getting through the college process, navigating it from beginning to end, helping them create and design their list of competitive schools, making sure their applications are sealed and done, making sure their counselor's recommendations and transcripts are done. We do that all with our students. But if you're going to do it alone, you have to make sure you're organized. You have to make sure that you keep the end goal in mind, and that is for you to get college to pay you to attend and not for you to pay for college as much as possible. That's not always doable 100%, but if you do the things right, you can get yourself positioned to get the money from them so that they can give back to you so that you can get through the college process. So again, I'm going to skip the next slide because that's usually when we have parents right at the same time trying to do the FAFSA. But we want to make sure that I wanted to make sure I left time for questions. I can't see the questions in the chat, but I know there's someone who will tell me if there's any questions in the chat. But if we have any parents or any students who are live, please come off mute, ask your questions. He'll read me the questions from the chat, or someone will read me the questions from the chat. We'll go back and we'll address all the questions. And if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to ask the questions.
Yes, Ms. Regina, we have some questions in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Actually, you might have already answered some of these, but I'll read them anyway.
Okay.
In case there's some more clarity needed. The first one is there a deadline for the FAFSA?
So yes, June. But just like anything, there's a June deadline, but remember there are state deadlines. So although the FAFSA deadline is June, if your state deadline, like the state of Maryland, is March 1st, and you wait to June, you've missed the March 1st deadline. So that means you don't qualify for grants and those things like that. You just have your FAFSA on file for the school. And so the deadline is June, but I promise you, if you wait to June to complete your FAFSA, not only will you miss state money, you will also miss getting any money from colleges because they'll be all out of money by June.
Okay, the next one was, do you have to complete your 2021 taxes before submitting your FAFSA application in the spring?
So that means I'm going to assume that parent has a senior this year for the class of 2022, and they've not yet done their FAFSA, and their FAFSA tax return is for what we filed in the last year's tax returns, not this current, because we have not done our current 2021 tax returns. Or if they have a current junior and that's why they're asking that, and they're saying they're going to do their tax returns this year and need it for October, we'll just need them to clarify what year is their student currently in high school.
Okay.
So we can make sure they have the clear answer and I don't confuse them.
It was from me. I don't have a kid in high school.
Oh, okay. Her phone, it's breaking up, so I can't hear.
Okay, we know that.
Okay, so it wasn't a current year. So always remember, whatever year you are filing your FAFSA in that October, it is the previous year's tax return that they are using.
Did you hear, Leslie? Did you hear that? Okay. Okay.
I think she's frozen.
Yeah, she's a little frozen, but
okay.
To answer the question, make sure that you use your previous taxes for that FAFSA.
So it's always the year before when you're going into that, and that current year is the tax return from the previous year.
Okay. The next question says, does the FAFSA play a part in scholarship awards?
So from the school, when it comes to merit aid, no. When it comes to other scholarships that the school might possibly have to distribute, yes. It might require you to just have a FAFSA on file, not what it's included in it, but that it must be on file. And so, yes. And also for state scholarships and state grants, your FAFSA is required, yes.
Okay, the next one is the interest rate varies for the Parent Plus loan, but how is it determined for the other loans?
So for the student loans, it's state determined. So it's across the board, everyone has the same. So when they come out with it for that particular year, on your promissory, when you go in to do your promissory, they will inform you of what's the interest rate for that year that your child is applying. And so yes, that does change, but the parent loan changes according to your credit check, your availability, your cash flow, things like that. But the state government subsidized and unsubsidized, whatever comes out for that year, that's stated for that year, they will notify you of what that percentage rate is.
Okay, that's all that I see in the chat.
Okay.
But if anyone else has a question, please unmute yourself and ask Ms. Regina.
So any question, any college related question, high school class related question, scholarship, financial aid, the process, essays, any questions you have, please by all means come off mute and ask any question. I always tell families, please don't leave with a question and then you don't have the access to someone to give you the answers you need.
Let me, this is Darrell Kearney, happened to be the pastor of Turner. Let me just come on real quickly at this time and express appreciation to you, Miss Regina Robinson, for your wealth of knowledge that you have imparted to us parents and grandparents. And I think I did see our current college students that are sitting in this particular workshop. And then I think I recognize those who are college bound. This information, I wish I had it some 20 plus years ago. I guess it's been that long because I right now today am still paying student loans from my undergraduate, but grateful for my graduate work. I did buckle down and get those scholarships to assist. But again, let me just express appreciation to you and to this entire team under the leadership of Brother Jameson, who always does an exceptional job in making sure that that our students and those within the community are ready for college, and it's greatly appreciated. To those whom are listening, I hope you're taking this all in and receiving it. One of the things that I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, and I'm going to have to step off, is with my two daughters, one of the benefits, and you may have mentioned it prior to me coming on, is that, and I forgot what what it's called, but it's where you pay into their college education based on the tuition of that particular year that you purchased that program. So for example, 4 years ago, I started paying for Viandra's college education, and it was set. And when she enters college next year, whatever the tuition was for that particular college in that state, that will give her, and I can't remember the program and what it's called.
Is it a 529? Is it a 529 plan?
Yes, yeah, right, yeah. So I didn't know if you had mentioned that. Sometimes, you know, as an option out there for parents to consider, those who can. Of course, it's all different. It just depends upon, you know, where persons are at various times. But with tuition going up, And one of the things that my oldest daughter, she was considering Howard. And as soon as Camilla Harris was elected, you saw Howard's tuition starts creeping up a great deal. So I know that that's something that is happening. Is tuition is like inflation. It's constantly going up in various schools, and kind of getting it locked down at the particular point where you know your student is going to college. So let's lock into that particular program. That could also be a benefit. But I really want to express appreciation to you all. Thank you so much to our scholarship team. Thank you so much to those whom are currently attending some of the greatest HBCUs in all of America. We are very proud of you. Thank you so much. And those whom are college bound, you know what you have to do. So thank you, Brother Jameson. Thank you, team. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. You all have a satisfying Saturday. It's good to see you. Hopefully your Thanksgiving was great. And we'll go from there. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Kern. Ms. Regina, I have a quick question for you. What about students who have a desire, current students who want to attend graduate school? Do they have to do the FAFSA for graduate school, or how does that work out?
So so if you're a current student in college now and you want to go on and do graduate school, again, it's part of the research, but yes, completing, a lot of times I always say notify the schools that you're considering. Most students, when they're going to do grad school, they're thinking about 3 to 4 schools applying to, and they kind of narrowed it down to those schools. You want to check with those schools to see if they're LSAT or GMAT, or if they don't require any of that. And then you want to also talk to their financial aid office to find out if you should do the FAFSA, and if you do, does it actually help you to possibly get any scholarships or grants from them for grad school? Because some schools don't. And so you want to know, and you want to be out there looking for the ones that do, as opposed to the ones that don't. And then now you're left paying for grad school or borrowing for grad school. So those are key things for students when they're already in college and want to go to grad school. Some of the other key things for some of the students who are in college, like don't wait until, so I say college is not for you to survive. College is for you to thrive. It is a place for you to become who you are destined to be. You're going to meet new friends, you're going to have new experiences, but most importantly, you're going to discover you. And so you can't wait until your senior year to get an internship. You should come in freshman and sophomore year already looking for an internship. And then when you get that internship, each year you're doing an internship, so that by the time you graduate, unlike most other students who don't have it all together, who are going to just be looking for a job, you're going to already have several jobs lined up, right? College is not for you to go and just spend 4 years and then come out and have all this debt that you possibly might have to pay, and you have no job lined up to even attach to that debt, because 6 months after, they're coming for that money. But if you're that right student and you've been taking internships, getting paid, shadowing people who are in your career area, networking with your professors, going with them to conferences and workshops, all of those things. As a professor, as a former professor, students would say, oh, Ms. Robinson, I see that they follow me all on social media. One thing, students check their professors out. I didn't even know that at first. They would come to class and say, Ms. Robinson, I know all about you. You just told us half the story. So they'd be like, I see you speaking at this conference, this women's conference. Can you bring somebody with you? Because I'll be your assistant for the day. I just want to be in the room. So how are you connecting with your professors, right? How are you networking with them? How are you using them? Because they're in the field you want to go into. And so why not glean from them? Why not learn and gain and be a sponge, collecting all of their information? I only wish when I was in college, I knew this, right? I was that high school student, like Pastor said, no one was here to give me this workshop. No one was there to tell me that me and my mother shouldn't keep calling my father every other day to get his financial aid, to get his information so I can include him on my FAFSA. And I didn't even live with him. I lived with my mother. So then I didn't really get any aid because we put both people, right? No one told me that I wanted to go to college. I didn't quite know how I was going to get there. I was a first generation college student. I went on a college tour that gave me the first glimmer of hope that I could actually possibly go to college. And what did I do? I applied to all the schools that was on that tour. And the one that accepted me with no restrictions, I graduated from Bowie, but I didn't start at Bowie. I went to Delaware State University for 2 years, went my freshman year because they accepted me with no restrictions. Bowie had restrictions and they were the one I really wanted to go to. But because they said, well, you have to come in the summertime first, do well, and then we'll accept you. Well, I was like, I'm not wasting my summer going there, right? And so I said, well, Delaware State said I can just come. So I went there and I had a lot of fun. So students, college is supposed to be fun, but you're supposed to have your boundaries in order so that you can survive. So I went for freshman year, flunked out, had to go to a community college, came back after a year of going to community college, back to Delaware State for my second year, made the dean's list both semesters. Why? Because I wasn't going to college anymore just because I wanted to go to college. I realized I was there for a purpose and for a reason. And I didn't want to waste my family's investment. And so we have to go and have fun, but we have to have our boundaries and we have to have everything in order for why we're there. And so then I didn't finish at Del State. I wound up coming to Bowie, but I always say it's not how you start. I mean, it's not how you really start and what's your journey in between. It's the finish that you go to. Do you have the tenacity to finish no matter what? So I tell kids all the time, I don't want you to take this long to finish your degree, but 7 years to get my undergraduate degree. But then I turned that around, got a job as a teacher, because I taught high school students for 8 years, got a job as a teacher, got lucky at a school that I was at where a family left an endowment at that school to say that any teacher who wants to further their education and get ahead and be an impact in other students' lives through education can go and get their master's degree. So I got my master's degree from Georgetown, one of the most prestigious schools in the Washington, D.C. area, for $500. Because that's all the endowment required us to pay. And so you have to get yourself positioned in the right places around the right people so the right opportunities will come to you. Opportunities are not given, we create them. And so each and every student on here and each and every parent, encourage your child to get out there and create the opportunities they need. For the college students who are listening, you are not at school to survive, you are there to thrive. Make it the best 4 years of your life and come out on top so that you already have a job that you can walk on to, and don't think it's going to be no 6-figure job, because that's not reality. Now you might get lucky, but that's not reality. So make sure you're getting yourself out there so that you can have a job by the time you get ready to leave school. What type of leadership will you have embodied? What would you have left? What legacy will you leave at your college or university? Or will you just have been a student that was there and did nothing but just go through your 4 years?
Ms. Regina, could you expound a little bit on the LMAT and GMAT that you spoke of, if they are interested in going in to further their education?
So any student who's considering graduate school, so remember there's a GRE and the LSAT. And so you have to, some schools require that test in order to apply. And so it's a very intensive test, almost like when the kids were taking the SAT and ACT when they were in high school. It's just an intensive test that is now in order for you to get into graduate school. But not every college or university requires it, right? Some of them require a lot of other extensive application process, but not the testing part. And so that is part of your research and looking for schools. So if you know you're not a great test taker and you don't want to go down that road with the testing, you have to look for the grad schools that don't require it. But if you know you can get in there and knock that test out and you're going to study and you're going to prepare, do not wait until you're about to graduate. By the time you have your junior year, in the summer of your junior year in college, you should be using that summer to work and to study for your LSAT or your GRE. So whichever, that again, you have to know which one your colleges require that you're considering for grad school. You want to be studying and sitting for that test, because you can't apply if you don't have it, if that school requires it.
Okay, did we have anyone else who want to ask questions? Any of our current students?
Oh, absolutely. If you're a current college student, please by all means ask questions. I mentor college students all the time, so please ask any questions you might have as a college student as well.
Okay, let's make sure that everybody took or wrote down the information that's at the bottom of the screen. College Bound, suitable.
Oh yes, so that's how you can follow us and connect with us on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at S4S College Bound. I'm on LinkedIn as just Regina Robinson. If you hang out on, I know the college students hang out on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as Regina Robinson, but if you're hanging out on Instagram, I'm S for S College Bound. We share college bound tips and college tips all day, every day on Instagram. Visit our website. We have free resources. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We send out monthly newsletters every month. And then at the bottom is also our contact information for what's our office phone.
Great, great, great. Thank you, Ms. Robinson, for
Oh, you
all
guys
the
are so
wealth of
welcome.
knowledge that you shared with us, for the great information. I'm sure that it has helped those who have attended. Again, this will be on our YouTube page, Turner Memorial YouTube page. So we appreciate you. We thank you for taking the time to participate and share your wealth of knowledge with us and with our students. And we're sure that this will definitely make an impact on them in their college career and in their future, as well as the parents, in helping them get their child or student ready for a successful college career. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Brother Rob.
Thank you, Brother Derek. Appreciate that. And to echo Brother Derek, definitely want to extend my thanks to Ms. Regina Robinson for an awesome presentation, very valuable information. And so thank you for taking your time with us today to impart such invaluable lessons, information, and encouraging words for that matter. And also want to thank Pastor Kearney as well for his encouraging words and information too. So we thought it would be great to kind of round out this presentation to include a student perspective. And so we have a wonderful panel of current college students with us today. Just to briefly introduce them, we've got Sydney Waters, who is currently a senior at the University of Delaware. We've got DeAnthony Jameson, who is currently a sophomore at Florida A&M University, FAMU. We've got Sherelle King, who is currently a freshman at North Carolina A&T University. And we've got Diana Jameson, who is a freshman at Bowie State University. And we know you've got two cohorts on this stage as well. And so what I thought I'd do is, ask these wonderful students some questions, interview them. And as we did with Ms. Robinson, we can open it up to any questions in the chat afterwards. And so I thought I would start, students, with some questions that actually kind of delve into your experience leading up to college first, and then kind of focus the majority of the time on your current college experience. And so most of the questions I ask will be for all of you. I'll let you know when specific questions are for specific students. But why don't we start with kind of your high school years leading up to college? And the question I'd like to start off with is, what types of things did you do either academically or through extracurricular activities to position yourselves to be the best college applicant you could be? And so why don't we start with Sydney on that question. Sydney, why don't you go ahead, and great to see you. And thanks again for joining us today.
Hello, hi, thank you for having me. In high school, my parents just made sure that I was as a student, very well-rounded and also as an individual, because they want to see not only what you do in the classroom, but also outside the classroom. So being involved on sports teams, on different clubs, dance teams. I was an honors or IB student. And then outside of school, I was, involved with the church, involved in other extracurricular activities, just to, give them a full picture of who I am in and outside of school.
Awesome. DeAnthony, how about you? Same question.
I would say I took rigorous courses throughout my time in high school. Also, my senior year, I took dual enrollment courses at Prince George's Community College. So I would say that prepared me for the next level as well, and was something that was seen on my resume. And then also being involved in church as well and other outside organizations.
Awesome. Thank you. Great to see you too, man. Thanks again for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Sherelle, welcome. How about you?
Hello.
Hello.
I just did that to stay like active in school. So I would play sport. I played sports. I played basketball and softball, and I stayed active in the community, trying to open up opportunities for different people, participate in clothes drives, food drives, anything that I really could to make a statement where I stayed at, which I think is important when trying to stand out on your applications, making sure that you made an impact at where you stayed. So that's basically what I did.
Awesome. Thank you. And to round out this question, Diana, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. The things that I did in high school, I was a cheerleader, Girl Scouts, help with the church and do like project give backs and just help the community.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much. I want to stay in this general time frame with you as well and ask you, what process did you use to kind of think about the types of schools that you ultimately wanted to apply to? Like, how did you think about kind of what you wanted out of a school and how you developed the list of schools that you ultimately applied to? And so why don't we flip the order this time? Diana, I'll start with you on that one.
The process, I know for sure that I wanted to go to a HBCU. So, and also was looking for a program for my major, social work program. So that lead me to Bowie State, and also like in the area, but not like too close in the area. And also had like having a great community, like activities on campus. That way I can like engage with the university and have like different opportunities for me.
Gotcha. You don't want to be too close to the parents, right? I hear you. Thank you for that answer. Sherelle, how about you?
Well, I know I definitely wanted to leave Maryland. I didn't want to stay in, and I wanted to go to a HBCU. And I have 2 or 3 cousins that already attend North Carolina A&T State University. So I over and visited them on campus, fell in love with campus, and said, like, this is where I want to be, like, this is where I want to go to school. So that's how I decided I want to go.
Awesome. Thank you. DeAnthony, how about you?
So I made a list of universities that had journalism programs and that were good schools for journalism. Then I narrowed it down to schools that I actually wanted to go to, and it was between Florida A&M and UMBC. And then I decided to go to a HBCU, and I liked the community they had there, as well as the distance was fine with me. So that's how I made my decision.
Awesome. Thank you, DeAnthony. And Sydney, how about you?
So when I was looking at schools, I was going back and forth between 2 and 3 majors. So I was more so looking towards for like experience and like the campus life when I was looking at schools, going on a lot of different college tours. And the school that I'm at now, University of Delaware, they did an overnight tour, which I stayed with the host that was a student at that campus, and I got to ask a lot of questions, which, you know, overall led me making the decision to go to that school. But yeah, I was more so looking at, you know, campus life, the feel for the environment. I definitely knew I wanted to go out of state. And so yeah, things of that nature. And then the school that I ended up going to had a good majors at everyone. They had like a good program for every one of the majors I was looking at. So that also went into it.
Awesome. Awesome. So since you all have been through this process, what advice would you give to high school seniors, or even juniors for that matter, or high school students generally, who are going to be going through this college application process? What advice would you give them? Why don't we start with Sherelle on this one?
I would advise that you participate in early admission, because I know for my school, a lot of people were trying to get into North Carolina A&T, so that early admission really saved me, especially because I'm an out-of-state student too. So if you out of state, try to get that early submission in.
Okay, cool. DeAnthony, how about you?
I would advise getting help, whether it be with a counselor or someone with experience on the application process, just because it's a lot to go through on your own. I also get help with looking over your essay and the whole application itself, just to make sure everything's intact, because they consider the essay a lot. So being able to write a good one and things like that is good. I will also advise just like deciding on where you actually want to go. Just don't go to a university where you feel like you can make it through the 4 years, because all honesty, you might not, because it's not where you actually want to be. So I would advise going to the university you actually want to go to.
Okay, that's great. Diana, how about you? What advice would you give to high school folks who are going to be entering the college application process soon?
I would definitely tell them to like get a head start, like junior year, like start looking out, making sure like your classes are lined up, your credits, and also like D'Anthony said, ask for help, because the process is really hard trying to go through by yourself, making sure that you have all the correct information. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And Sydney, how about you? What advice would you give?
I would say definitely visit the schools that you're thinking of applying to, just so that you get a real feel for what you get to walk around the campus like, oh, can I really imagine myself being here? Because how you imagine, while applying, imagining an experience versus actually experiencing it are two very different things. So I would definitely say visit the school to see if you can picture yourself there.
Okay. And this is something that Ms. Robinson touched on during her presentation, and D'Anthony just mentioned in his answer. And so I thought it might be a good idea to just ask you all a question about your experience with it. How did you all approach your college essay? And what advice would you have specifically about how to write a good essay, what types of things you might want to include in the essay to make it as strong as possible, if you remember? So D'Anthony, why don't we start with you, since you had mentioned it in your last response?
So my college essay was based on an experience where I believe is where I faced like some kind of trouble, or like, what's the word? Well, where I had to get over something, like there was like some kind of like, I can't think of it, but it's basically like just gave an experience where you bounce back or something like that. So I approached it with an experience I had. I made it as personal as possible, which is what they really look for in the essay, for it to be true and personal, and you give the most information you can. So that's how I approached it. I poured my whole heart out into it, and I gave a lot of information, made it personal.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mhm.
Sherelle, how about you? Any advice, tips on the college essay in particular?
I agree with D'Anthony. Basically, make it as personal as possible. And I know I had the same prompt, I believe, and I think I switched it around to where like how that specific event happened to me. Like, oh my gosh, I can't think. How that specific event like fueled my fire to to making a change in my community. Like, so just like look around and try to make it so like, yeah, I went through this, but because I went through this, I'm stronger today. And I made these changes in my community type stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Sydney, I know you're currently a senior, but do you remember kind of what the essay was like when you applied?
Yeah, the essay was it was a general prompt, like how did certain events shape the person that you are today. I definitely, just to go back on what Sherelle and D'Anthony said, to make it personal, because, you know, saying, oh, these are the clubs I was involved in, this is my GPA, that already gets through your transcript, through your resume. So the essay is really your time to tell them more about yourself, make yourself stand out more as an individual.
Okay, awesome. And Deanna, anything you'd like to add to that question in terms of tips for the essay?
I agree with all of them. Make it personal. Like Cindy just said, like give them more information that they don't know about you, that you didn't put on your application. Like you help give back to the community, let them know that my prompt was an opportunity that like changed my perspective on life. So that's the prompt that I had did, and that's what got me to the school I am now.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that kind of pre-college years focus. And so now why don't we transition into kind of your current experiences. You all have already kind of mentioned why you chose the school you currently attend. So wanted to kind of start off with a question around, did you feel prepared academically when you got to college? And why don't we start with D'Anthony on that one?
When I first got there, I was a little worried because teachers in high school would say, you know, college is different. It's much harder and things like that. But I feel like they were speaking possibly, like the perspective I got wasn't the same as what they were saying. The professors were very helpful. The coursework, it was of course rigorous, but it wasn't as hard as what they made it seem. And I feel like part of that could have been from my experience with dual enrollment. But when I first got there, I was worried, but through my first year, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And I was very successful.
Great. Sydney, how about you?
Like Anthony said, I'd been involved in the IB program at my high school. So the coursework, I feel like I was prepared for academically. The course load, the amount of work I was getting and the time that I had to do it while also trying to be involved in other organizations on my campus, that I feel like I was unprepared for, or like underestimated how difficult it would be to manage all of it. So that is something that I wish I'd prepared a little bit more for in terms of like time management, but the work and just the work in general, I do feel like I was prepared for.
Awesome. Deanna, how about you?
Academic wise, I felt like I was kind of prepared because like I was going to college during a pandemic, well, still in the pandemic. So it was just like being online and then going back into person. I felt like it was going to be a different experience, but it's kind of same. It's just like Sydney said, the workload, trying to time management, everything. But yeah, I think that's my answer.
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you for that answer. Sherelle, how about you?
I agree, because you're like basically on your own. And like everybody said, like that, those AP classes and dual enrollment really kind of prepare you for what the college scene is really like, but you're on your own. Like there's nobody telling you, okay, go ahead, do this work. There's a paper due in 3 days. You might want to get on it. It's like, okay, this deadline on the syllabus. Don't try to email now type stuff. So just time management. That's basically.
Yeah, you guys have all brought that up, and I was going to ask you a specific question about that. And I remember when I was in college, you know, sometimes you'd only have about 3 classes a day, which was different than high school, where you were in class most of the day. And I was like, this is kind of like Disney World. Like, you know, I got all this extra time now, but I realized like I'm supposed to be using that extra time. So how did you guys, you know, figure out the discipline to schedule when you had to study? And Sydney, to your point, invest in your other activities. Was that a challenge, or were you able to figure it out pretty smoothly? Deanna, why don't we start with you on that one?
So with time management around my schedule, I had like the way I set up my schedule, I have like an hour or 2 breaks between my each classes. So like during that time, I would just go, if I would have the class in the morning, I would go do that work and then start getting ready for the next class and then go to the other class. And then at the end of the day, just regroup and make sure I like write down everything that I need to do for the week and just be prepared.
Awesome. Sydney, how about you?
It did take me more a little longer to really kind of find a rhythm, but what worked for me was, you know, making a lot of lists and just kind of keeping myself in check. I had to stay out of my room because, you know, there is too many distractions. So finding a library or a student center to kind of just zone in on my work and what I'm supposed to be doing really helped me as well.
Awesome. And DeAnthony, how about you?
So I was able to have a good schedule this year. All my classes are spread out. So on the days I will have certain classes, I could do the work for other classes that were coming up and the homework that was due. So just finding time in between the days, like at the end of the day or in the morning or when I have a break. And I will find time doing that, and I will go to the library because that is where I can focus more compared to being in my room where I have my bed there or the TV. So just finding time in between my class schedule or, you know, just scheduling when certain assignments are due and just getting it done before then is how I got it done.
Awesome. Thank you. Sherelle, how about you?
I just worked around my schedule. There'll be days where I only have one class. I know those days I have one class, I can like fill out my work, do my work for the week. I actually had to stay in my room to do my work because if I see somebody I know in the library or the student center, I know I'm not getting work done. So I had to just stay in, turn off the TV, get off the bed, on my desk, just do my homework.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know last year, COVID definitely kind of threw a wrench into kind of the college experience. A lot of folks were at home online or maybe doing hybrid. Just kind of a quick question. Are you all now in person or are you still doing hybrid or online? How's it working for you currently at your respective colleges? Sherelle, why don't we start with you?
I'm in person. I'm home for winter break.
Okay, cool. Sydney, how about you?
My school, the campus is completely open, and I'm open this year. But there are some professors that are still teaching classes hybrid.
Okay. Diana, how about you?
My campus is also open. All my classes are in person, but I do know that there's some asynchronous classes. So yeah.
Gotcha. And DeAnthony, how about you?
To my knowledge, we're completely in person. I don't know of any Zoom classes. I know there's online courses, but I believe that the majority or all of the classes are in person. The university is completely open.
Okay, gotcha. So here's a question for you. Again, going back to this theme of the transition from high school to college, how did it feel for y'all to be away from home for an extended amount of time for the first time? I mean, how was that adjustment? I mean, missing home cooked meals, that type of stuff. How did you guys adjust to that? Why don't we start with Sydney on that one?
Um, it did. I didn't get too homesick when I first came back. I probably because I didn't move that far away for college. So I didn't really I did miss the home cooked meals though. It was cafeteria food was kind of hurting. But as far as getting homesick, I didn't really get homesick. I visited my parents a couple times a month when I first moved away.
Cool, cool. Sherelle, how about you on that question?
I didn't really get homesick because, like I said, I wanted to get away from Maryland. And I have a lot of family in Carolina. So if I really want a home cooked meal, my cousins stay a couple doors down. My uncle stay across the street. So I was much.
Those are some other reasons you chose that school too, right? I hear that. Deanna, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't get homesick. Definitely the home cooked meals were missed, even though my parents would bring me some on the weekends. But yeah, the cafeteria food doesn't match the home cooked meals. So.
I hear you. D'Anthony, how about you, ma'am?
Surprisingly, it didn't affect me much. My parents were the ones that were really missing me, so that was that. But I feel like the home cooked meals weren't a big issue because I'm in the South, and the cab they pretty much cook all the stuff that I would be getting home, so that wasn't too bad. Of course, I missed them, but I was fine at school.
I hear you. I'm still getting over that bass you got in your voice now too, man. It's killing me. So you guys have also touched on this a little bit too, kind of in your introductory type remarks as well. But for especially D'Anthony, Sherelle, and Deanna, wanted to explore a little bit more about why you ultimately chose the HBCU and what your experience has been like at HBCUs thus far, and kind of the things you really like about that experience, if you will. So D'Anthony, why don't we start with you?
I chose the HBCU because the experience is like no other. I also know I wanted to be in a community where I could receive help and have small class sizes. So there'd be like a personal connection between the whole class, and that's what I've been getting so far. I know I'm familiar with majority of my classmates in the classes. We all communicate. The class is like, it's not like where we're just sitting there and being lectured. There's participation and everything. So when I decided, that's what the main reason was, being able to have like a community, things like that. And so far the experience has been great with that, with just the experience itself, with the football games, the band, the food, being able to see my president like every day. I can see my president, he'll be walking around. So it's been great, and I'm definitely glad with my decision.
Awesome, thank you. Sherelle, how about you? Same question.
I went for the HBCU experience. My mother went to Howard University, and she wanted me to go, and I was definitely like, I want to go to another HBCU. There's so many others to go to. So I said North Carolina A&T, the band, the games, just seeing like the different types of people in our community already. Like you have different types of Black people. You got the skater kids. I've never seen skate like skateboard skate. So when I went to school and I seen all these people skate, I'm like, okay, I didn't even know we did that, but good for y'all. Like I just like the people, seeing people from different states. My roommate's from North Carolina, so she can kind of like tell me about North Carolina as a whole. And just the experience, just getting away from here is good.
Cool, thank you. Deanna, how about your experience at HBCU?
For me, I wanted to go to the HBCU. Like everyone said, for the community. I know where I can fit in and have different opportunities and the help that I need. um, just off the back without like waiting and trying to find someone else to that's not my skin color to like help me, but I know that they'll be ready to help. Experience wise, it's definitely going great. The games, activities that our campus hold, the student center, like they also like have different programs. And that's another thing that I like. Our school, we have programs that we can go to learn new information, to engage with other people. And yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you for that. And Sydney, kind of similar question for you, but more from the predominantly white institution perspective. How have you liked that experience thus far? I know you're a senior, so you've kind of had a few years there now. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about that experience. And particularly as an African-American student, did you feel welcomed, accepted, things like that?
Yeah, so when I was choosing colleges, I didn't really have a favor of PWI over HBCU. I was looking more so, like I said earlier, campus life and like the programs that they had. First going to Delaware, it was definitely a culture shock because I'd been to a predominantly Black high school, been around Black people my whole life. So it was definitely a culture shock for me. It took a little bit of like getting used to. But overall, I have felt generally welcomed in that community. I hadn't experienced any discrimination of any kind, thank God. But yeah, it definitely took some getting used to, like, oh wow, this is what it is, you know, this is real. This is like kind of like gauging me for, especially in the program that I'm at, it's, you know, very few Black people in that program. So it just kind of was like, it kind of gave me new perspective on, you know, not only the campus, but like once I graduate and once I get into my field, like it is kind of like slim pickings of like the Black people that we have in this field.
Gotcha. No, appreciate all your answers to that. Very helpful. So in doing my research, it looks like you all have at least chosen a major. And so just wanted to explore that process, how you all chose your major. Did you have sufficient help from faculty and guidance counselors on how to go about choosing a major? And so, Sydney, why don't we start with you on this one, and then we'll ask the others as well. And if you could also just tell folks what your major is.
So I'm a psychology major with a double minor in human services and Spanish. And applying, I was going back and forth between psychology and nursing. And what ultimately won me over with psychology was just how it was just a little bit more personal compared to nursing. It was, you know, one-on-one. You really get to know your client. You get to help them through any of their milestones and trauma. So that's what really won me over, was I wanted my career to be a little bit more personal. You said, how did I end up choosing my major?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
how I chose.
Sufficient? Cool. And did you have sufficient help? Did you feel like you had sufficient help on campus as you were kind of going through that decision-making process?
So from the college, not necessarily. I got more help from, you know, my parents and my schoolwork, my teachers and my counselors. I got to, you know, go to, my mom is a nurse, so I got to go see, you know, a little bit of what she does. And then like, I got to talk to my counselors, and then they told me about how they went into the field that they went into. And so that kind of, you know, helped me make my decision.
Awesome. Thank you. D'Anthony, how about you? Same question.
So I would say I discovered my major based on the career path I want to go to. My major is broadcast journalism. So beforehand, I wanted to do sports management. And then I had to talk with my counselor, and she was trying to figure out if that was something I actually wanted to do, or if there was like an ulterior motive or something like that. And I was thinking, I was like, she's probably right. It's not something that I'm interested in. So she asked me my interests, and I told her, you know, of course I love sports. And she also asked if I like writing. I was like, yes, I like writing essays and things of that. So she suggested like sports journalists and stuff like that. So I did more research and discovered there's a thing as a sports broadcaster. So I started to look into that. And that's how I came across broadcast journalism. So doing that right now to prepare for my career.
Awesome. Thank you. Sherelle, how about you? Same question.
So I'm a criminal justice major with hopes of being a criminal psychologist. And I've been really like all over the place with my major choice. But after taking a criminal justice class and writing a career paper, I found my love for trying to be a criminal psychologist, just talking to people and trying to understand what's like really going on up there is like really interesting to me.
Awesome. Thank you. Diana, how about you?
My major is social work. I just knew that I always wanted to help people, no matter the age, kids, adults. I always wanted just to like give back and help people and just like understand like what do they need and what can I bring to the table for them. At first I wanted to do psychology, but I did more research and it does take a little more time. Also got information from other people and they helped me go on my track to do social work.
Awesome. Thank you. Quick question for all of you. In addition to your kind of normal coursework, are you all involved in a lot of extracurricular activities? I know some of you have mentioned some already, but why don't we just do a quick round the loop? Why don't we start with DeAnthony? Extracurricular activities in addition to kind of the normal classwork?
Currently, I'm only involved in two. In the FAMU Gospel Choir, and I'm sorry, not two. FAMU. I'm in the FAMU Gospel Choir. I'm also in a mentorship program, and I work with the school's radio on the sports section. It's called the Playmakers. It's a weekly sports show from 2
That's
hours.
great. That's great. Sherelle, how about you? Are you able to participate in some extracurricular activities too?
I haven't been participating in anything in specific, but I just been and just getting in everything I could, just participating in activities, trying to make some connections. So in the future, next year, I could come back and tell y'all that I've done something.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Diana, how about you? I know it's still early on, freshman year as well as Sherelle, but any extracurricular activities you've joined thus far?
Well, I have a job and also go to the gym on campus. And like I said, go to the programs that different housing buildings hold. So
Awesome. Awesome. And Sydney, how about you? I know you've been doing some stuff over your 4 years.
Yes, I'm a part of a dance team, Dark Arts Dance Company. I'm also a part of a Euro Each One Reach One mentor group, and the NAACP chapter on my campus.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know we're getting close to our time. I wanted to end with this question, then I'll also open it up to any that folks may have, but it's clear from the answers you all have given that you guys are extremely talented, intelligent, motivated individuals. And so have you thought about what you may want to do after college? Have you thought about grad school or going straight into the working world? Would love to hear your answers on that. And why don't we start with DeAnthony on that one?
Yes, so I recently received information about a feeder program that my school offers for grad school. So I intend to look into that, see what universities they have, and go to grad school because they pay for it if everything works out. So I'll be looking into that. Also internships and things like that my senior year so that when I finish, they could possibly offer me a job opportunity.
Awesome. Sydney, I know you're getting close too. How about you?
Yes, I'm currently in the process of applying to a few grad schools to get my master's in social work. Also looking at a few internships to get started on.
Awesome. And Sherelle and Diana, I know you guys are still freshmen, but it seems like you were way ahead of where I was when I was a freshman. So have you thought about what you may want to do following college? Diana, we can start with you on that.
I haven't yet, but I'm also next semester going inside the social work program. So also know that I'm also know the board of the social work program. She's my professor right now. So she's
Oh,
like
cool.
giving us and letting us know opportunities that they hold after we get inside the social work program of what they have lined up for everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. And Sherelle, how about you?
For my career choice, I would definitely have to go to grad school. So I'm thinking about going to grad school. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. No, totally hear you. Well, listen, folks, I know on behalf of the scholarship committee, we are extremely proud of all of you. We want to thank you for the time that you offered us on a Saturday morning, no less, as college students. We don't take that for granted, but what you have offered during this session has been extremely valuable. And I know for especially students who are going to be going to college soon, they will take heed to the advice that you provided during this session. I'll pause here briefly. I don't know if there are any in the chat that I may have missed, or if folks just want to come live and off mute and ask our awesome student panelists any questions.
Hey, this is Brother Derek. Just got a quick question for the students. What would you all say has been your biggest challenge this year with college? What would you say your biggest challenge has been, if there has been any? And that's for all of you. No particular order.
Sydney, why don't we start with you on that one?
My biggest challenge this year has probably been just getting used to being back in person. Just because for the last year and a half, all I had to do was log on, wake up, be good. Now I'm, having to find my way across campus again. So that has been a little bit, probably the biggest challenge for me this year.
Anthony, how about you?
Forgot to mention that I'm also a part of the outdoors club. So I would say that's been my biggest challenge, trying to manage all the activities I'm a part of, because sometimes the schedule can pile up apart, and I had to make decisions on put importance what I feel I need to attend compared to other events. So that has been a big challenge for me.
Sherelle, how about you?
Just time management, because I've always been a big procrastinator, and I can't do that anymore because once this assignment is due, okay, I have a next one, I have another one due like tomorrow in a couple hours. So I just have to pace myself throughout the week and try to get my assignments done. But I'm getting it, so we're good.
That's great. That's great. Diana, how about you?
For me, I would say time management as well. Also going back in person after being online for almost 2 years, and also trying to like interact with people on campus. Like I don't have that many friends, but I'm also trying to like branch off and like meeting new people and really trying to like interact more with the university.
That's great. And thank you for that question, Brother Derek. Other questions for our student panelists?
Sydney, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I put in there the telephone number for Tim Jansen. He's the CEO of Community Crisis Services Incorporated. I think we had talked about it before, but that's his number, and he wants you to call him to set up your internship for call him while you're here, while you're home now, and just tell him Miss Cece told you to call him, because he's aware, and he really wants to work with students on the internships, especially in the psychology, social work. Also, Diana, when you're ready, social work also. And I wanted to just say to you guys too, don't forget about being a parole and probation officer, Sherelle, in the criminal justice. You all just touched all my favorite professions here: social work, psychology, criminal justice, and of course, the Anthony sports broadcast journalism, because you know that's what Jeffrey is at ESPN. And he said as soon as COVID is lifted, that we're going to work on getting you to come and visit the studio. Okay, so I just wanted to put all that out for all of you all, that if you all need any help, we're here to help you out. And just thank you so much for participating with us. And we're just so proud of you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Sister Cece. Appreciate that. And Brother Derek, I will pass it back to you, and thank you for your awesome leadership of the scholarship committee.
Thank you, Brother Rob. Thank you, Sister Cecilia, Sister Penny, Leslie, Joey, Sister Dorothy, everyone, for you guys' great work and great help in the ministry and helping putting this event together. One thing that I want to mention to the students, take heed to what Miss Regina Robinson stated. For those of you who are freshmen and sophomores, don't wait till the last minute to get involved in internships. You know, you can start your internships as early as your freshman year, or even start looking for internships. So you want to make sure that you guys are doing that, because I took notes, and one thing she said is every year do an internship, because when you get ready to graduate, you've got experience, and then you've got those companies that you've done those internships with who will be willing to offer you jobs. So definitely make sure you do that. I just want to thank you all for your great, for your participation and the great input that you all have put in and have given our students who will be following in your footsteps and going to college, and the parents who will hopefully be able to help their children be successful in transitioning from high school to college, choosing the right college. All in all, I think this was an excellent event. I appreciate everybody's participation. Ms. Regina Robinson for the great information that she has given. Pastor Kearney for giving us this opportunity as a ministry to be able to share knowledge with the community. And hopefully this will help our young folks who are attending, those who will watch on our YouTube channel, help them in making decisions for their college choices, knowing what they need to do, and knowing how to navigate the college life, college experience. So thank you all again for your help and participation. Just wanted to put out there again the website for Mr. Regina Robinson's Suited for Success College Planning, which you can go to www.suitedforsuccess, that's the number 4, success.org, or follow her on social media, Facebook and Instagram at S4S College Bound. And then also follow our church, Turner Memorial AME Church. We are on Facebook and Instagram, Turner Memorial. Our website, www.turner-ame.org. And if you need to reach out to the scholarship ministry, you can do so by emailing us at scholarship@turner-ame.org. And so thank you all for your participation. Thank you for your time and allowing us to come and share this information with you today. Hopefully everyone We'll have a great rest of the weekend, great holiday weekend. Those students who are returning back to school to finish out the semester, good luck, finish strong, put your best foot forward. Those that are on break, enjoy your break, rest, recuperate, get your mind ready for that second semester, that spring semester, so that you can go on and be successful and have a successful career. We thank you for joining us today, and that's pretty much all I have. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Nope. All right. Thank you all for joining. Have a great one. All righty.